Let's cut to the chase.
The federal government debt and liabilities would amount to a total of 1,087.3 billion ringgit, or 80.3% of the GDP as at 31st December 2017. That the obligation and financial commitments of the federal government are unchanged before 9th of May this year and after elections today. The only change is that the new federal government has decided to call a spade a spade.
Saudara Guan Eng was absolutely 100% right in revealing the true extent of Malaysia's debt, because the bare naked truth is always better than the lie. Decades of being hoodwinked and lied to by a deceitful and corrupt former government have made Malaysians cry out for an honest, transparent and clean alternative. I think by and large, that's what we have in Pakatan Harapan. The problem, I think, in terms of Guan Eng's revelations of Malaysians' trillion ringgit debt lay in two parts. The first was the language and tonality of his message, and the second was what appeared to be the lack of an answer to the question of what's next. Part A first. Bloomberg Businessweek's Andy Mukherjee wrote that Guan Eng's statement was too colourful for an investment-grade country rated A3 by Moody's, and perhaps a less blunt tool, whatever Andy meant, might have been more effective for Malaysia's new finance minister in handling 1MDB. But all things considered, I tend to agree with Andy Mukherjee's point of view. You see, Guan Eng and Pakatan are no longer firing salvos from the trenches of shadow cabinet. Guan Eng and Pakatan are now the government. And after the Prime Minister's statements, Guan Eng's is the most important in terms of how global fund managers approach us in Malaysia in the uncharted waters our globalized and open economy now finds itself. So how should Ministers of Finance communicate? How should they conduct press conferences, write press releases, couch language and present policy?
A future that will be full of change, full of new challenges and above all, full of new opportunities.
Well, we can't really use UK Chancellor Philip Hammond as an example because he's British. And the previous Finance Minister was completely useless, so he can't be used as a role model either. But frequent media interactions would be good, especially when transmitting government policy that aims to reduce expenses and boost revenue. What else? Clarity, balance and detail for sure, to mitigate the uncertainty of a new government with a lot of fresh young faces, and yeah, certainly a bit more gravitas commensurate with the position.
Gravitas is a Roman virtue. It means seriousness, dignity, weight. In the modern world, it is about your presence, your power, your authority. It's speaking so others listen. And for me, it's about a balance of your knowledge as a person, your passion, your enthusiasm, and then a sense of your presence, how embodied you are.
Arul Kanda may be what Arul Kanda is, but big picture, he's nothing but a pimple on Malaysia's road to redemption. So let's treat him as such, because sooner or later, the law catches up with all perps. So back to Saudara Guan Eng's press release. Certainly, it was a bit of a trial for fire for the former Penang Chief Minister, and I'm pretty sure that from here on in, they can only improve. After all, Guan Eng's got nothing to fear. He's got unimaginable reservoirs of goodwill in his tank, and Tun Dr. Mahathir knows his track record in writing Penang's coffers, and that's what landed him the job. Part B, though, is a little trickier. 1.1 trillion ringgit in debt is 80.3% of GDP, around 30% more than the official number. And that's the figure as at the end of last year, which means that today's debt is probably higher. And this, I think, formed the basis of Mr. Mukherjee's now famous op-ed, which is to say, now that the truth is out, what's next? How does Malaysia cut this debt to a more manageable level? How does it navigate to a fresh regime of tax and consumption and an alternative revenue stream when, despite its critics, GST was extremely effective? How does Malaysia fund the subsidies emanating from cheaper petrol and diesel? And how does it deal with the removal of excise duties for cars in the mass 1.6 litre range and below? See, don't get me wrong, I voted for Pakatan. I wanted them to win. Lim Guan Eng was my chief minister in Penang, and I can see how my home state has grown by leaps and bounds under his watch. But I fear the possibility that this fledgling new government might commit one of politics' cardinal sins. That's of over-promising and under-delivering. Pakatan's reform agenda comes at a time when Malaysia has never been more open and exposed to a global economy that is right now being roiled by a raft of challenges. And here we are in 2018, at the late stages of a global market rally that began 10 years ago in the wake of the global financial crisis. As the nonagenarian investor Mark Mobius pointed out as recently as last week, global markets are due for a crash anytime now. So if there is anything that can possibly derail Pakistan's reform agenda, it is likely to come from abroad, not inside Malaysia. And that would be a pity. I hope for the sake of all our future generations that Pakistan is given the time and space it needs to right this country of all the wrongs that have besieged it. And that includes producing a press release that transmits confidence, not uncertainty. So come on, Guan Eng and Mahathir, let's do this together. Just saying.